Hey, Ben, thank you for joining me today.
How's it going?
It's going great. How are you doing?
Doing all right. The air quality's been terrible. I feel like I can feel it in my throat a little bit.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
man, it's bad. It's
Yeah, I was
bad.
just out today, got these N95 masks.
Yeah.
My throat still hurts.
Well, I was in a car and I thought that having you know how you can have it be an AC, but it redoes the air or filters it. I thought
Hmm.
maybe that would help, but oh man, it's pretty bad. I can feel it now after talking and just trying to breathe throughout the day. It's
Disgusting.
it's a little scary. I'm not gonna lie. It's crazy how far away that all is, and it's just whatever.
Yeah, this is like the fourth time in 5 years I think this has happened. It's pretty nuts. And I was seeing like even this morning or yesterday, there's some cities that have like the orange sky going on.
Yeah, which honestly, the only positive I think you get out of that is it would be a sick music video. Like, if you had something you needed to film, go to Toronto right now, grab masks when you're not filming a scene, but it looks so cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's bad, it's a problem, and it makes it terrible to breathe, but it looks kind of cool.
There's this guy on Instagram and YouTube. He does these shorts of like different lenses he makes. So he took this
Mm.
like cutout of like a Fallout logo, right? Like
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
circle,
yeah.
and then he put that in the center of a lens and had it rotate. It was crazy because it like makes all the
Mhm.
light blur. That would be pretty sick.
That would be
And
that would
this.
be the place to do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, so for viewers that don't know, this is Benjamin Lumen. Ben has been doing the Lord's work, traveling the country, mostly the Midwest. Is that correct?
Yeah, mostly just Chicago, and then I went up to Minneapolis over Metro Surge for 3 weeks in a day with my brother.
Right, yeah, I saw a couple of those videos, but Ben's been going around mostly Chicago, occasionally to places like Minnesota, and documenting
Mhm.
ICE, just kind of filming them out in the open, getting in their faces. It's been very great content. You've had a couple videos go viral. I remember seeing the ICE agent slipping. I'm sure a lot of my audience has seen that.
Yeah.
And most recently, there's a video of you filming the cop in Joliet.
Recently, a bunch of tasers have been pointed at us, and my brother got shoved the other day. So that's been something I've been seeing, which is crazy.
Yeah, them just getting physically aggressive.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a little bit about Ben. Since we brought it up, they've been getting more physical lately. Can you go into detail about that?
There was a article published by the New York Times on July 2nd saying in the past 5 days they've gotten 10,000 people, which is like 2,000 people a day, where before they were averaging 1,000 people a day. So definitely there's been a push more recently to get more. And I feel like you can tell with the agents, there is more aggression. Although, they're always aggressive, they're always arrogant, and they always seem to escalate a lot of situations. But definitely, at least I've noticed, it's been pretty bad recently. And a couple days ago, it was pretty brutal. Yeah, we had some tasers pointed at us, and my 16-year-old brother got shoved to the pavement. And it kind of blew my mind in the moment. I was like, this is really happening. But that's been a lot of this experience.
Yeah, I would imagine. Because you guys been doing this, what, for about a year now?
Yeah, I mean, we started on September 15th of last year, been kind of doing it nonstop since then. There have definitely been lulls, like February, a little bit of March. We weren't seeing much ICE activity. I feel like they were kind of pivoting after figuring out what to do with Alex Preddy and trying to get out of spotlight. But yeah, pretty much since then, all of our life has been working on documenting ICE. It's been weird because, as I've said, I'm a pretty normal person. I like music production and songwriting, and I've gotten into tuning pianos and working on that for people, and I'm going to be trying to go to college here in a month. Although I don't know if I'm going to defer for this stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm not a crazy person.
Yeah, no, that's funny you brought up the tuning piano because I know that's how we met, right? Even before
Yeah,
anything was
yeah.
going on, we met at Piano Tuners like presentation that we went to.
And they had some awesome salsa. I remember that
Oh
they
yeah.
had some green salsa. It was so good.
Yeah, the guac and salsa. So I guess that leads me to ask you, like, what got you into activism in the first place? Because you
Yeah,
were just in high school when you started. I know you're just saying that you recently graduated. What had gotten you to do this work? Because I think a lot of
yeah.
people, even like my age and older, don't do stuff like this.
Well, I think ever since I was born, but really especially in my teen years, my parents have cared about injustice and fighting against injustice, and raising their kids to learn about it and see the humanity in everybody in the situations. And so I've always grown up, again, especially in my teenage years, educating myself about what's happening in the world, going to protests, going to conferences, talking to people who have been in the center of the issues, but feeling like I can't really do anything because I'm just a white kid teenager in suburbia. Stuff happening in Gaza or Ukraine or anywhere else, they're so big and it's so far away that I feel like I can't even necessarily put a dent in the issue, or do anything that truly helps it in such a substantial way. But then when ICE was 5 minutes away from us, and they stopped a van and they arrested everybody in this van going to their factory job. We got there a little bit late because a family friend contacted my mom and said, "Hey, we've been tracking these guys for 2 weeks. Can you guys go? We don't have anybody nearby you." So we went over there. Had arrested everybody and we're gone, but we got connected with the local organizers. And then kind of from then, we've just been a part of these patrol teams.
Wow. So you literally had like kind of the community from the start. It wasn't just you. It was kind of like your family and your like neighbors.
It was my family. And then really, it was a lot of people that I met very quickly early on, but you bond very quickly because it's kind of like trauma bonding. And also, you have to be interacting every single day and you're trying to build these systems and everything and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And you're communicating back and forth. And so you build community very quickly.
Yeah, like not many people are taking their cameras, going out, following these vehicles intentionally. So I can imagine that's like a very bonding kind of experience
Yeah.
that y'all share.
No, it definitely is trauma bonding. I mean, yeah, you really bond with somebody when you've been like tear gassed with them. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's something that'll definitely unite people.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you for sharing. Get a little more specific into your content. I know several of your videos have gone quite viral, as we've discussed, and they've shown people the reality of how ICE operates. What does this reveal to you about the relationship between activism and social media?
That's a really good question. So it's difficult because obviously, as a lot of Gen Z has grown up with social media a lot of their life, especially younger Gen Z. And so your feed shows you viral things, and virality needs to spark some sort of emotion. That's why like people interact with it and they enjoy it or they watch it again. So our feeds will show us the happiest stuff in the world all the time, but it'll also show us the worst of the world all the time. And so you get pretty numb. Like how many school shootings happen a year? How many different giant events happen that are hurting people a year? And you just kind of scroll past it and it's right in front of you, but then it's gone. And so it's difficult to figure out like, okay, do I share this online and will people actually care? And it's kind of juggling that, like, is it worth even touching? And originally, I was posting some stuff on my anonymous Reddit account just to get it out there. And I very recently started posting stuff on my personal Instagram just because I feel like there hasn't been an eye on ICE recently. And they've still been very active. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this just to get as much engagement as I possibly can because people need to know this is happening.
Right.
But I've tried to avoid it, at least on personal accounts and social media is where like the goal is to like gain followers and gain subscribers because I don't want to be viewed as somebody who's like a political influencer. Like I just want to release what we film. I don't care what happens with it. I just want it to be seen and be out there to be seen for people who want to see it. And so that's kind of been our view of social media. But at the same time, which also like is a way to get it online is news networks. And sometimes they kind of do the same thing. You'll see like CNN will post stuff to Instagram or Fox will post stuff to Instagram. We realized that like if you stayed at tear gas events, especially Minnesota, for 20 minutes afterwards, that's when national news networks would get there and be like, okay, was anybody here? Can they tell us what happened? Does anybody have any video? And so Sam and I realized, hey, we're pretty good at filming these things. We've already worked on documenting ICE agents for a while. If we stick around, we can just give them our video every time. And so I started to grow kind of a network of these people from national news networks. And so eventually one of them said, hey, news networks have to charge like 100 or hundreds of dollars per second of video that they use. That's like the going rate for what they have to pay out. And so this is kind of how the narrative is controlled because you have budgeting to different issues and the reporters covering different issues. And that's how you're able to control the narrative and what gets seen. And so Sam and I were like, hey, let's just give it out for free. We'll put it in a Google Drive. I don't care if you credit me. Just use it, get it out there. And then we started seeing our footage everywhere. And now I have contacts to so many like news networks on my phone, which is a weird experience, but it was cool in that like we would experience this thing and then we'd be able to flip it to them and just say, get it out there. And then we'd see it on national news. It got to the point where after Bavino, the old commander at large of Border Patrol, he threw tear gas on January 21st. And I let them all know, like, I have video of the whole thing. I will upload it. And then we were in a random like Thai restaurant because it was the closest restaurant to where we were. And I'm like trying to upload this footage with poor cellular connection as like Associated Press is on the phone with me, like trying to get me to hurry up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But it really did work. And we've tried to avoid touching any money in all of this.
Yeah.
We've been given $200 or $300 from one photographer. He was freelanced by a Singaporean news network to ride along with us just to get stuff for them. But then after his contract was up, he was like, hey, can I pay you $100 a day to ride along with you because you guys are really good at this. And we were like, hey, we do it for free because you have a press badge and a camera, and that scares ICE enough to like treat us differently. But he was pretty sure he wanted to pay. So we ended up just donating that money to a family here in West Chicago that really needs help because
Oh,
they've
wow.
lost their breadwinner. Really like trying to avoid as much money, trying to avoid like the content creator kind of vibe, just trying to film stuff, keep them accountable, and keep people seeing what's happening in America. It's a hard relationship. That's kind of a long answer to your question, but it's definitely something that I've had to think a lot about because it is complicated.
Yeah, no, definitely. Money complicates everything, especially, we're both artists. I know that a
Hmm.
lot of artists have a weird relationship when you start doing something for a living. It's like it changes your relationship with it. I think when you're
Hmm.
doing things like journalism, that's even more important because not only is it your relationship, it's your audience's relationship with your integrity, right? How much
Hmm.
they weigh what you say based on what you
Like
do.
how
And I
much is
think
the
that,
dollar kind of puppeting you? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Now it's interesting to hear that take and how that definitely influences what is covered, what is shown based on the
Yeah.
ratings. And that's really cool to hear that you do take that and ethics very seriously. And if you do make money, where you spend that money, giving it to different organizations of people that could use it.
Yeah.
That definitely I think is very
As much as
important for
we
your integrity
can,
as a journalist.
thanks. As much as we can, we try to avoid it even touching us. There's been one person who's making a documentary who's using our footage, and she's really kind, but she's like, for our distributor, like, we need to give you money to like license it. And we were like, we kind of don't want it like touching any of our accounts. Just send it over here. I trust that like you'll do that. Like you don't have to pay us anything, but if you're going to just send it over there, make it so we don't have to touch it. I just want to be able to be very transparent and be like, we're not doing this because we want money and followers. We really just see a lot of people in our community being hurt. And there's a lot of us who are trying our hardest to keep ICE from doing what they're doing illegally.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. In these times, I think we need people that are the ethical ones to step forward. And I like that you're taking that stance to it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. We need more politicians who aren't controlled by the people who don't need politicians to be on their side. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, that
You
is
know?
like one of the big things to this, today is we're talking about reforming this country is, getting money out of politics. So it's not just politics, it's a lot of other things in our society that it definitely
Yeah.
influences, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, going on, kind of on the same topic, since you've started this work, how have your views changed about the world? Alternatively, have you
Mm.
had any beliefs that have been strengthened?
Yeah, I think it definitely hurts your worldview a little bit because one, you're seeing a lot of the worst of humanity, and two, you're seeing a lot of humanity that doesn't see it nor care enough to do anything about it. And that gets hard because you're like, how long do we have to scream for somebody to actually care and listen and do something? Which that's probably something that a lot of people in the world have had to live with for a long, no, not probably. That is something that a lot of people have had to live with in the world for a long time. And just now I'm getting to experience it because I'm actually like living out those issues that these people have lived with for a while. But that hurts to see it and to live it and to realize kind of the unimportance of normality. Yeah, it's a little difficult. It feels like a double life when you go out and do this work and then you come back and you're hanging out with friends, maybe watching a movie or playing a card game. It feels like whiplash, and it almost feels like you phase out for a second. It's definitely hard. At the same time, though, every single person that I sign on a chat with every single morning is fighting because they love other people. They're fighting because they want to see other people flourish and they believe in like diversity and every person has dignity. And just the fact that they're out every single day because they love people is so cool, and they're some of the best people I've ever met. And so
Yeah.
like that's definitely a high point. My coworkers are the best people ever. And I love those people.
Yeah.
I think belief wise, I've always grown up in a Christian household. I'll probably be going to Wheaton College if I'm not deferring a year to continue doing this stuff. And that's like a very Christian school. I think a lot of this work has hurt my views of Christians. I think there's a very big difference between Christians and Christianity. They're not very similar right now. There's like following what you're supposed to be doing and loving people and clothing thy neighbor and helping the hungry and being there for those that are in prison. And then there's Christians, which seem to be like saying these things, but in a very corrupt way and sometimes not even caring about them. And
Yeah.
I like it's gotten to the point where I feel bad saying that like I come from a Christian household because I mean I'm a white family with a bunch of little siblings. I don't want to be viewed as somebody who doesn't care and is comfortably ignorant. And that is what I've been finding, at least for me in my experience, has been a lot of the Christian community. And that's been hard because I still believe that everything over here, all of what Christianity stands for and like how Jesus lived is important and should be what we base our lives on in seeing other people and helping other people. but I don't see that being lived out by the very people that say that's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah.
And that hurts because like I go out and I interact with people and I do this work. And a lot of the people that are out there are probably people that Christians would say are like doomed to hell. And it's really sad because these people just love people for the sake of them being a person. Like they don't need anything in return. They don't need to see any profit from them. They're just there because they want to see them flourish. And I think those are the coolest people ever.
Yeah, no, that I can really relate to that. So I grew up in a Roman Catholic household.
Hmm.
Myself, though, I haven't really considered myself. I'm more agnostic. I think I have been for quite a long
Yeah.
time. I recently went to actually a piano tuning camp in West Virginia, and it's this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
place in Pipestem, West Virginia, led
I'm not
by.
very familiar with it.
It's kind of by Virginia Tech, but
Okay.
the technician, her name is Maggie Jusil. She ran it,
Hmm.
and it focused on oral tuning. Why I'm bringing this
Hmm.
up is because this like campground that we were on, the Appalachian South Folklife Center, was kind of founded in this like very progressive Christianity. And
Mm.
Maggie and her husband is the director of this place. Especially her husband is very knowledgeable about the history of that area and
Mm.
West Virginia. And I learned so much about the damage from the coal industry, but also,
Mm.
juxtaposed the hypocrisy of like modern Christianity, where it's absolutely distorted from the things it preaches about to this like progressive Christian that like truly believes in like giving people homes for free and helping out their community and speaking out against hatred. And wow, was that an illuminating trip. And it was very interesting. The group that we attended with, I met some religious people that actually like were pretty progressive and pretty down to earth, and it really restored my faith in humanity. But I also struggle with that because I come from a religious family myself, and I see those very same things that you've talked about.
It can be difficult when you see someone's faith lived out in a certain way that feels like it's nothing of what it represents. Yeah, no, the going to the West Virginia like coal mining thing, I was recently kind of researching that. And the way that like the unions, all of that kind of blew up, and then there was the whole political switch. That's crazy stuff. Yeah, that's a tangent, but I was recently researching that because I was actually in West Virginia a couple months ago, and I just
Oh,
wanted
really?
to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wanted to like know some of the history because you never know what conversation you're going to get into, and it'd be fun to like know where the people are coming from or what they've kind of grown up around. You know?
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
exactly. There were some details that Maggie was sharing that about specifics within the state that really blew my mind. One particular was her husband Tim pulled out this book. I think it was called like Clean Coal or something. But this book just showed it was just pictures upon pictures of like wildlife being damaged by the runoff. Yeah, you could really see like, the consequences, us in like big cities in the United States. I don't think we really think about the consequences of how we get our energy. And I would say that's related to a lot of things like ice because we bury our heads in the sand about, I think, a lot of the consequences of like maybe you're justified in wanting a safer community, but did the ends justify the means? Like, do we really need masked
Yeah.
agents around the street to make our
Well, and at
community
the same
safer?
times, yeah, and at the same time, like I would argue, the way ICE operates and who they're actually targeting isn't making the communities safer. We don't see them targeting violent criminals and drug dealers. We see them targeting any brown person they see on the side of the street, which is often somebody that has been here for years, and they're just like a mom or a dad or a grandpa, and they're just trying to live their life and provide for their family. And like it happens over and over where people get taken and then we find out later they had no criminal history. And so we need a fight to kind of try to get them back. But because detention centers are for profit, they're going to try to hold them there for as long as they can because they make money off of every day that person's in jail. It's sad because I think a lot of the people who don't experience this and don't see it just kind of assume that ICE is doing targeted missions against people who have done some sort of crime. And that's just not what we're seeing. But yeah, they constantly racially profile. And I'm always seeing them grabbing people. And then in some cases, because we're filming them and they realize that they've been filmed doing something wrong, they'll drop them off miles away, like 20 minutes, 2 hours later. But in the cases where we don't show up and film, they don't care. And so they just take them and they go. And that's really difficult because I don't think people understand that they're not going for the people that ICE says they are. Obviously, every now and then ICE will release a thing saying, like, look, we got this guy. He was a terrible dude. But, like, that's one case scenario in the thousands that they're getting a day. And I remember during Metro's surge, they released a statement or a thing saying, like, hey, we arrested these two or something. And both of them like the Minnesota police had already had incarcerated for a long time, and DHS was saying it's part of Metro Surge, and Minneapolis was like, no, we already gave these guys to you a long time ago. Like you guys haven't been targeting the criminals during
Oh,
this mission. But it's really difficult to show that to people because everything they've ever heard is they're getting the worst of the worst, and they're not. And they grab anybody, they go, and then when these people in the small case scenarios where they're released and the legal attorneys are able to get them out, which is so difficult to do, ICE will keep their documents. Not every time, but a lot of times we'll bring somebody home and they're like, yeah, we don't have our papers anymore. We don't have our driver's license. We don't have our IDs. ICE kept them. And so now it's like, okay, so they're here legally. They'd gone through the process that we're telling them that they have to do. Then we took them, we kept them for a couple months. Then we released them. We took all the stuff that we told them they had to get. And now we're saying, figure it out. And on top of that, we're revoking temporary protected status of thousands and thousands and thousands of people across America. And for those that aren't aware of what temporary protected status is, it's basically saying, hey, your country's not safe. Like either the government's so corrupt and violent, or you're just dominated in violence, and it's like a risk for you and your family's safety. You can come here for a bit. It's basically like just giving them a safe home while everything gets ironed out over there,
yeah,
essentially.
right. I had a couple coworkers from Amazon. One was from Haiti, I
Mhm.
remember,
Oh
and
wow,
then
yeah,
one from Afghanistan right after
yeah.
in 2022. So he was here directly on the, what do they call it, special immigration visa.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyway, temporary protected status is now being cut by the Trump administration. But they're
Right.
not cutting countries where it's now stable. They're cutting the countries that are still very, very dangerous. And so now Haiti is the most recent one to get cut. And like look up pictures of Haiti on Google and read a couple articles about Haiti in the last year. Like that is not a place where we want to send people back who are like trying to build families and trying to make a life for themselves after escaping all of that. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that have lost their status that way. And so we're saying now you're here legally. We're also freezing all green card applications. Like you can't apply for a green card right now. So like the way to then be here legally in kind of response to that, we're pausing. And so we're basically saying you have to leave. We don't care what country you go to, but you have to leave. But these countries, like these people have tried to build families. They're trying to like start a new life. And like again, they've escaped all that stuff and they're just trying to live. And we're saying, no, you got to go back or you're going to become another number for our quota so we can tout how many people we've taken.
Yeah, and the damning thing is that the majority of these people are doing it the right way. They're intentionally
Yep.
going to court, which is them literally in the hearing doing it the right way. And also recently in Bideford, Maine, there was Johann Sebastian Guerrero, which was shot. He had a social
Yeah.
security number. He was literally doing everything the right way. He didn't have a gun. And I saw this fascinating video of this guy. Perhaps you've seen it, this guy being confronted on it, and he starts defending ICE like, "Oh yeah, well I wanted people to come here the
Oh,
right way."
is he wearing the
And
gold
then
chain and a green shirt?
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. I love that video.
Yeah, that video was terrifying, but also fascinating at the same time to see someone in
Hmm.
real time, like how they processed it. Because at first he was ready, but on literally every point, it's like, no, he had a social security number. Oh, okay, well then he must have had a gun. No, actually, there was no gun found. In fact, ICE admitted they targeted the wrong guy, and then you could see him like, oh, well then that's a shame.
Yeah, for those
And
that don't know, it's like a conversation between two people. One guy walks up to like the vigil or a protest saying like basically saying like he shouldn't have come here legally, and the other guy's like saying like no, he had everything right, and you can see this guy's mind get changed, and I think he walks away saying like oh my gosh, that's so sad or something.
right, yeah, he does.
It was it
There's
was
a big
honestly so refreshing to see that video.
It was. As somebody with people in my family who lean the MAGA, I've been seeing a lot of interactions like that more so lately, which has been
Hmm.
kind of restoring my faith in humanity a little bit. Definitely fascinating to see somebody like in real time have that worldview kind of completely changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's why work like this is so important because it really shows in real time. Just seeing your most recent video, the one in Joliet, I mean, right there you have vehicle without a license plate clearly visible. And I just got to tell you, in my own community in Bridgeport last year during Midway Blitz, two
Mm.
of my friends saw the same black SUV with ICE agents with masks on. They driving through Bridgeport without license plate. Within 10 minutes, they both told me of this vehicle
Yeah, yeah,
without knowing that they had both seen it. And I have family members, like I was talking to one of my uncles who just thought I was making shit up. It's like, no, man, we've seen this in person, and like to have it documented on video, yet another example, further erodes that worldview that they're trying to push.
yeah, for sure. I think it's been difficult, but I keep going back to the fact like because we have our phones and like a camera is so easily accessible in this day and age, like because we can actually show what is happening, it's probably kept a lot worse from happening. Obviously, like we've had a lot of devastation and our communities have been battered and people have been killed. But I can't imagine what would have happened if it used like if it was how it was 100 years ago or less. Like just the fact that we can get video and then have other people in the world be able to see it like I think that's kind of huge for this issue. I do wish it kept got more people engaged. But I think that's also the problem with video is that you're seeing the
Mhm.
worst of the worst all the time. And so you just feel numb and you feel like you can't do anything. And it's like surrounding you because it's always your feed.
Yeah, the flood the zone stuff is unfortunately very effective. And
Hmm.
when people, get that doom feeling, you can let it take over. And I think that's what's really important to not let that take hold, to just remind yourself there
Yeah.
are good people that are fighting. Yeah, I guess this brings me to where do we go from here? Do you have any message for people watching this at home about how to best fight against ICE and other things going on in our country?
Yeah. I think jumping into this can seem huge. Going out and filming ICE agents, which obviously they've proven themselves to be very violent, can be scary. And if that's not for you, that's not for you. If you do feel like your risk level is in that area, contact any immigrants' rights organization near you. They will have a contact to some group and they can get you connected. And there will be people who are ready to give you a ride along and teach you how to do this work. If that's not for you, there's soft resistance. So, like helping with food pantries, because people have been scared to go into a food pantry. So, food pantries have to go to them. Or coming alongside a family that's lost somebody because of ICE. There are families that lose their breadwinners who are trying to provide for their family. And maybe they need help with rent. They need help with diapers. They need help with food. They need like somebody help with childcare while one of them goes to work. Like, there's so many ways to come alongside your community and help in that way where it's not face to face with federal agents that have been known to shoot people. Long term, obviously, I don't want this to continue happening. I want this to end. I want the injustice to stop. But the issue is so difficult. I think the way our border laws are is just so confusing. It's so convoluted. And so it can take up to 15 years for people to be allowed to come here legally. The problem is it's kind of a lottery system, and like when you have young kids and you're trying to escape poverty and start a new life, you can't wait 15 years to come across. And because of the way America works, we kind of hold a very small stop sign, but we kind of still beckon people over because they're cheap labor and we use them and we don't uphold wage laws for them. And so that the whole system needs to be redesigned because it's just not realistic. You've had people flooding in for a whole number of reasons. Either we're kind of quietly inviting them in, or it's US funded wars in other countries. El Salvador is a really good example where the US kind of invested a lot of money into a group that was killing off so many people and civilians. And so a lot of people migrated north and in some cases up to America. And like that's kind of our fault in a way. Actually, it's our fault in a lot of ways, but we don't have a system for it. And in our system we currently have, I feel like every time you hear a presidency, they talk about how they're now going to uphold it better. But it doesn't need to be, we don't need to put more iron bars in front of it. We need to redesign it because
Right.
it's so convoluted. If we could have it take at most a year to become like approved to come into the United States. And it made sense in that like if you're a good person, we want you here. Like we want what you can bring to our community. We want what you can do for us and we can do for you and just welcome them with open arms.
I would say, I think for me, what's been really frustrating is that two things. One is ICE is a really young agency. It's younger than me. I think it was founded
Yeah.
after 9/11. I
Yep.
was born in 97, so younger than me.
Yeah.
And before that, we had the INS, Immigration Naturalization Services. They didn't have agents patrolling the streets with guns. There was a system in place that seemed to work pretty well. So this whole thing of like, we need ICE and wear masks and drive without license plates to get the worst. First of all, for like a century before that, we had no problem with that. And then the
Mm.
second thing is they're not even getting the worst of the worst. I think a lot of the statistics, it's like, I don't know an exact number, but I know it's somewhere around what, 30% or less of people that have been taken by ICE have done any sort of crime. Like the amount of
Depends.
people that
Yeah.
are
And violent
that
crime is so low.
right, exactly. So it's very exaggerated and it's very frustrating when you see people both siding this, like giving some
Mm.
legitimacy to this agency that is just really corrupt at this point.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I'm not going to go out and say that this is the first time America has been bad to immigrants because, like, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, what we did to Japanese immigrants, um, because we were kind of just outright racially profiling them, saying they were spies and like putting them in their own like gated communities, but they weren't treated well. Like that was pre-ICE, and that was also a bad thing. But yeah, ICE is such a new organization, and I think something that the Trump administration has done with ICE is one, be very aggressive and be very on the nose, but it also has revealed how corrupt the organization is, even on past administrations, because a lot of the ICE agents that we see who are super
Mm,
aggressive and do get identified have been in ICE for years. This isn't
right.
like a new special hire. While they are doing that, a lot of these people have been here for a while. And so it's made me come to realize like, oh shoot, this is not like an issue we just started. This is a problem, and it's been a problem. They're just now being encouraged to go even farther and push even harder. But yeah, it's not a solution. It's not how we're ever going to keep this safe. And it's not how we're going to keep American people safe, because so many people in America keep getting shot and killed. And so, yeah, we really just need to go back to the border and figure that out. And then we can figure out what to do with the people we already have here that, like, the United States of America is already kind of responsible for being here in a lot of cases. I think the problem is we're trying to solve an issue before we actually solve the issue, if that makes
Mm.
sense. We're trying to fix what the issue has created without actually solving the issue.
Yeah, you're
So
addressing the
it's still
symptoms,
going
not
to keep
the root.
happening. Yeah, it's still going to keep happening, and we're going to keep like doing what we can to stop it. But we're just trying to fix something that is the result. We're not fixing the reason the problem exists. We need a better system. We need it to be faster and easier so that it's viable for families who are trying to escape something. I mean, again, cutting temporary protected status for so many people. We are also creating people who are now here. They're undocumented now, but they went through the whole process and they were here legally up until a couple months ago, or in some cases, weeks ago. The whole thing is just broken, and doing it in this aggressive way is not going to fix the issue.
It seems to be a sign of our times. It's not just with ICE, but a lot of our attitudes towards consequences that we've been experiencing are,
Yep.
treat the symptom, not the problem. I mean, look at we were talking about the smoke. I mean,
Yeah.
that's decades and decades upon like refusal to change your policy to address climate change. Now we're seeing the consequences of that. I mean, I'm getting close to 30. I don't remember until 2021 or 2022 a time my city was orange from
Yeah.
smoke, and now we've had this is the fourth time in 5 years, and I went
Yeah. It's
20 years
scary.
without seeing that once. That's a long problem that's going to need more than just like a band-aid solution. Same with the immigration system. I know, not just from what you've told me, but people I know personally that have experienced the ills of that system, of it taking decades to get approved. Once you're here, there's no guarantee that you're going to keep those documents. You can get here on a green card and then lose that, and then great luck getting back, if you can't afford the tickets back. This is
Yeah.
a
A good
reality for a lot of
example.
people.
Yeah. And a good example I heard recently, because like the government is just not good at certain case scenarios. It just never has been. And especially with immigration, there's so many different things people are coming from. There was a family, this guy, he was like a brilliant engineer. And so he got approved by visa status to come to America because again, brilliant engineer. His wife waited to get approved until after she had her baby because she was very pregnant and she didn't want to walk into the office super pregnant because they're going to probably deny her because they think that she's going to come as like trying to have like an anchor baby. And so she waited, then got approved once her little girl was born, and somehow along that, her like their daughter got included. They're then in America. They go on to have two more kids, who both are citizens now because they were born here. And then, as the oldest one, who did not come in as a citizen but came in under some other visa, she grows up under her parents, so she's here legally. And then she goes to apply for the green card that she needs to get now to like live here permanently, even though she's been here basically her entire life since she was a couple months old. But the Trump administration has frozen all green card applications.
Mhm.
Every single one is frozen. And so now she has to self deport back to a country that she was born in, but she hasn't been in since she was like 3 months old.
Yeah, how do you even
Yeah.
handle
And the
that?
rest of her family is all here. And it's cases like that that the government completely overlooks. And there are so many cases like that where people are hurt because they're not really seen. And then, yeah, we have ICE, which if she didn't self deport, ICE could grab her and keep her in a detention facility for as long as they want. And it's pretty horrific. And now she has to work on trying to get back in, even though she has always grown up here, basically, since she was like 2, 3 months old, and has always done, like, always applied for the right visas, everything that she needed. And now, like, she's gone through the process to do a green card, no criminal record, nothing. Like, she is a good person and she's just like our next door neighbor. And the government can't see that.
Maybe they do
Yeah.
see it, and they. I feel like sometimes it does feel
Oh, I mean,
intentional. It
yeah.
feels like absolutely they want, like, there's a reason they're going to courthouses. People that are doing it the right way, like they're trying
Yeah.
to make a
Going to
scene. I mean, it
immigration
feels
court.
like, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're trying to scare people, and like a government that's just caring about the safety of their own civilians wouldn't cut the status of the hundreds of thousands of people here legally and send them back to places where we have level 4 travel advisories. Level 4 is the most dangerous travel advisory that says do not go here because you are at risk of being tortured, kidnapped, and killed. And that's like Haiti. Did Sudan end up getting cut? I can't remember. Somalia,
I believe it did.
Venezuela. Yeah,
I'll
like
fact check
all.
that, but I believe it did.
Yeah, yeah. At least I know Haiti and Venezuela, and I believe the other ones have level 4 travel advisories, or did at the time that they were cut. And it's like that's crazy that we're telling people do not go to these countries. It's so dangerous, and then telling hundreds of thousands of people actually you do have to go there. Yeah, a normal administration that's just caring about the safety of people inside and trying to get the worst of the worst out, they wouldn't be doing that. There is, again, like the whitewashing of America mindset that we see as they're driving through the streets and they just stop in the middle of the road to grab the random brown person walking on the side of the road.
So I guess coming back to our original part of the question, right? Where do we go from here? It seems like what you were saying earlier, just, everybody's got a different situation, but finding your way to get involved. And would you even
Yeah.
say, like, don't be afraid to be brave?
Don't be afraid to be brave. And also, like, know that going to protest is big. Going to protest is awesome, but protests aren't like I did my action. That's the
Hmm.
okay, I'm going to get connected to people to go do my action. Going to a protest is like going to the lobby of the hotel or going to the lobby of the video game. Like you still need to go click play. Like
Mm.
you have to actually go do something. And protests are an incredible place to meet other people, meet other organizers, meet other people doing work. And you can just go up to people and say, how can I help? And they will tell you if they know what they're doing. They will tell you and they will accept you immediately because in a lot of these spaces, people need help. So protest can't be your only thing, and reposting on social media can't be your only thing. Like we need physical action out there, and we need people to be supported.
Yeah, I work with the Working Families Party. And one thing that
Heck
we're
yeah.
talking about too is also like midterms, right? Voting. Like I've been really frustrated. I know there's a lot of opinions on this, but I see a lot of content where people are almost discouraging people from voting. And
Mhm.
I can understand where the sentiment against performative activism comes in. But, there's some good people running for office right now that are saying with their chest, abolish ICE, but not just that, even prosecute them. And I got to imagine with more people like that in office, getting actual political power, it's not a quick fix. It's not going to be solved overnight. But if you have enough people that are getting involved in those things, that's how you start to change these systems by getting the people in
Yeah.
office that will, fight for these causes.
It can be understandable to be discouraged by voting because you're like, oh, I'm one of millions of people. What am I actually going to do? But it is so important, and we need people to show up because that is the only way we can actually get more change up top. And even right now, like we are really at risk of our voting rights being taken away.
Right.
Especially with the Save Act for like most women in America, married women in America, like we need to be able to stand up for these things. And voting is your right as a person in America. And it matters because, yeah, there are really good people running and we need to get them in office and we need to also uphold them to what they say they're going to do. But no, voting is so important. And I really hope we see a change in the midterms. And I really hope the change we see in the midterms actually affects something. I'm
Yes.
tired of getting false hope and then feels like politicians kind of just stop interacting. And we need people who are actually going to fight hard to see people flourish.
No, well said. I feel the same way. What I've seen in some circles, and I think I've been reading recent polls that like Democrats are up like 10 points nationally, but not just that. I know a lot of the progressive wing of the party is making huge victories. I know in like
Mm,
Denver, Democratic Socialist Mila Kuros just defeated a 15-year incumbent
I saw that.
who took APAC money. They had all the same stances, but this person just they had differed on Israel, and that was enough. I think it was like a 15-point victory. There's 8 elections in New York that just happened where people with
Hmm.
similar positions and similar stances on not taking money from corporations ones. And that's where I think I get very optimistic when I see these things. And just, to remind people, it's like you said, going to a protest of like entering the lobby of the hotel. I feel the same way about voting. It's just what you do to build political power, but there's all these things you can do in your off days. I've been
Oh,
talking to a
for
lot of
sure.
people about like, I stopped streaming music. I started buying music, and I'm planning to make a couple video series about like how that process has been, how to do that. And
I love
I think,
physical media. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's been great. Economically, it's better for musicians, for artists. And also, there's something
Hmm.
special about like engaging with media in this like you're just moving on to the next song. Maybe as boomer of a take is that can be,
No, I think,
I hope that's not
especially with
coming across that
algorithms
way.
coming, yeah, well, algorithms being so controlling now, I think a lot of people are moving that way. One thing I will add to the voting aspect, real quick, is I think we can't just vote for a Democrat because they're a Democrat and saying like, oh, Democrats are up 10 points. That's great. But we also need Democrats who are going to fight. And we need to vote for the Democrats who are actually going to do what we need to do and also uphold the morals we want to see lived out in every single person. I was so disappointed with what came out with Graham Platner
Oh,
in
same.
Maine. I was so disappointed because I want to have a candidate that I can stand behind and say this guy has the moral grounds that like I would want somebody to live by. And if they don't, we're not going to support that. Like we're against it on either side. And we need to make sure we actually stand for that. In some cases, politics can feel like a game of like who has more points, but we also need to make sure our points are pure and making sure our people are there because they want to help people and not because they just want some power position. And I think that's a huge problem in our political spectrum right now.
Yeah,
But it's hard.
practicing what you preach is super important because who's going to listen to you if you're not following your advice, right? The Grand Platinum situation was really disappointing. At the same time, I was really relieved to see there were some people that still supported him, but I think the vast majority of people, when that allegation came
Yeah.
out, the quickness at which they decisively dumped him, I think that gave me a lot of hope in progressive as a movement because that was a test, I think, of like, are we going to uphold an abuser or are we going to like,
Yeah.
take the road less traveled. And we'll see what happens to that race because now they do have a new person running. But
I don't know much about them. I haven't had time to research. But yeah, just the whole fact of like, if you rape somebody, we're not going to support you. I don't care what side of the party line you're on. We want people who are there for people. Again, when it feels like we're all down here fighting over here and over here, where all the leaders are kind of up here and they get to ignore everybody on the bottom, that's a problem. And we need to bring people up who are going to make change for everybody. And
I agree.
we need to also uphold the moral character that we want to see lived out in the world. And yeah, it's just sad. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping for in the midterms and this coming election. I would like to see it not get taken over. I'm a little nervous by again what's been coming out with the Save Act and other things Trump has said. It's a little scary, I won't lie. And I try
It's a
to
lot
avoid
scary.
talking about it.
It's a lot
Yeah.
scary. When people are backed in against the wall, they flash out, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing. I think, though, people speaking out with their chest, and for me personally, like, bring it on. Like I've been following a lot of foreign elections, and one that struck
Mm.
out to me was the one in Hungary, where Viktor Orban lost. Are you familiar with this election?
I know very little. I remember when Victor Orban lost, but I honestly don't know what led up to it or what came out of it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So it's a fascinating one to watch because Viktor Orban has controlled Hungary since 2010, and he
Mm,
basically completely eroded all the democratic norms, democratic backsliding to the extreme, to the point where he had
mm,
people, special like politicians appointed, like think of our Supreme Court, but like on steroids, where like everybody is a
okay.
Republican. I think their party is the Fidesz party. That was Viktor Orban's party. So everybody was
Mm,
basically a Fidesz supporter. They had a very small controlled opposition wing and the person that ran against Viktor Orban was originally an Orban supporter. Now, over the
oh,
last few
whoa.
years, he decided to run against him. And what's crazy is Peter Magyar won by like
Wow.
15 points
So
because
he was going
Hungarians
crazy.
overwhelmingly showed up to the polls. And even though this was a rigged election where, people were paid off, there were so many supporters that Viktor Orban still lost by like 15 to 20 points. And since then,
Yeah,
you could see that they've been reforming the Constitution to put back in place a lot of the guardrails that were eroded of democracy. And I
I
think about
love
that in
that.
America. It's like, obviously, I'm not going to say that this guy, Peter Magyar, is a perfect person. He used to be an Orban supporter, but it's really interesting to see like,
Yeah.
how even via an election where you think it's a rigged system can still give people a leg up. And it's kind of like, all right, what do you do with that as a movement? That's an
Yeah.
opportunity. And I think, I think about that a lot in America. It's like right now the progressives are really making a lot of victories. Are we going to step up and meet them where they're at, especially in the years to come, to build a movement?
Yeah. And I think one thing I've really enjoyed seeing is just like how much certain candidates feel like they're there because they want to help people. And it feels less like a power campaign. It's like I want to see the people who live in my place do well. And I want to be with my community and when they see me be able to say thank you because they actually have experienced something good out of what I've done. There are certain candidates I look to like Mamdani where he feels like a normal person who's rose up to the occasion to take this huge position. And yet he's still a very normal person. And you can see it in the way he interacts with the community. Like he loves the community, he loves New York. And I feel like you don't see that with politicians much. He's vibing with his community and they're vibing with him because they know that he is actually working to help them and better their society. I don't know. He has kept my faith in humanity alive a little bit. And I know that
He's
probably turns some people off who are very far on the right, but I see him doing things to help people and not to take control and not to make his friends rich. Like,
Yeah. Even just the respect thing from Mamdani, I think I really like the way he tackles when people challenge him. I think a masterclass in like how to respond with respect and still hold your
yeah,
values and your positions. And it's been really good that he's been getting concrete policies in place like that have been backing up what
yes.
he's been saying. Really quick, I just have a just one more question that slipped through the cracks, but since we have some time, how have conversations among these issues changed among your friends? Have you had peer pressure from people trying to push you a certain
Mm,
way or even moral support? Like, what has that world been like for you? I know you're saying that you have a big
yeah.
community around you, but I don't know if you could give any insight.
I am really lucky in that I have some of the best friends you could ever have. I have some really cool people that I get to go out and hang out with and have conversations. And especially my teen years, like I've grown up, we will go on walks, late night walks, and we'll like kind of devil's advocate each other on our opinions so that like we can argue them better and better form them and better understand what we believe and why we believe it, and also how to have the facts and have morals and ethics like baked into what you believe. And honestly, just practicing being able to stand up for what you believe, but also solidifying why you think it's right. And that's been
Yeah.
great. That's been awesome. And to grow up around that, I think has really shaped me a lot. And so that community like has been super helpful and very supportive. I think there were some times where like, especially when I went to Minneapolis, they were like, oh, these people are dangerous. They just killed somebody a day ago. And in that moment, I just had to be like, yeah, but like I've done this a lot. I know what to do. And as for Sam, my brother, it's a little harder. A lot of his friends are not necessarily in the same boat. And it's a little bit hard when your friends can basically prove to you that if you were to get shot and killed, they would justify it. Because especially in like the situation that Alex Preddy was in, we've been in very similar situations. 20 minutes after Alex Preddy was killed, Sam grabbed somebody who had been pepper sprayed and was like pulling her back by the armpits. Like we did that every single day. And it's sad when you can see people who can just immediately justify it. And it's like, guys, that could have been me. Like I was right there.
And a lot of your clips, you're getting right in their face. I mean, I have to imagine a lot of these grim realities have to be resonating with you to a certain extent.
Yeah. No, we've had our cars surrounded and been told to get out of our vehicle and been momentarily detained by ICE agents, and then seeing something very similar happen to Renee Good, and it is hard. Even recently, seeing like Lorenzo and Juan get killed, especially the video that's now coming out with Juan in Maine. It's just like, and there hasn't been change. We still have the same issues, and it feels like we're just repeating it over and over. And it's like, when is it going to be somebody I know? I remember I was with a group of people, and this was after Lorenzo was killed, and we were just talking about things that we just hope don't happen in the near future. And I was just thinking, I never said it, but I was just thinking in my head, like, I hope the next person that gets killed isn't somebody I know. And then the next day, somebody was killed in Maine, and I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
that was around the time I asked you about this interview, and I think like the day after that had happened. For me, at my end, I was like, "Whoa, what are the chances?" It was just kind of spooky
So
timing.
bad,
I
so
was going to
bad.
ask you as a follow up, maybe you could take now to illuminate the viewers on some of the brutal things you've been seeing on the ground. I know we've seen in your videos like driving without license plates, driving with masks, threatening to tase
Yeah.
people. I don't know if there's any other things you could share.
No, yeah, obviously I've seen that stuff. I've seen them just grab random people and go. I've seen them jump out of cars, surround people at bus stops and just take them. I've seen them grind
Oh my
people's
gosh.
faces into the ground and they're bleeding as they're being dragged back to the cars. I've watched as they broke into a family's home without a warrant and took the dad of this family while this 5-year-old kid is screaming with next to his mom. Yeah, we've seen a lot of bad things, and it sucks because we live it and we video it, and it feels like it doesn't get heard, or it doesn't get heard as much as it should be. And it's every single time we're filming this, we're filming an individual person's worst nightmare. Yeah, and then obviously, like Sam and I got there 5 minutes after Alex Preddy was shot. We got there before the ambulance got there. We saw the stretcher being unloaded, and just the proximity of that, and then what came after that, just the hours of tear gas and pepper spray, and it's just terrible. We've seen cars get rammed and crashed. Seen people who are pinned to the ground get pepper sprayed as like 3 agents are on top of them. You
Yeah, there were
know,
the videos last year in Chicago of them pepper
yeah.
spraying around schools while children are out. I mean, that's nuts.
That stuff was crazy. I remember seeing that too. We've been on calls when other people who like observe and document get pulled over, they get boxed in, and often ICE agents will come over and bang on their windows and say like, "This is your first and last warning. Like, if you keep following us, we'll arrest you." But especially in Minnesota after Renee Good was killed, it was so common to hear them bang on the window, and then over the call, you could hear them saying, "You know what we did to Renee." And then they'd like go get back in their car and go. Or in some cases, we'd be on a signal call with somebody and we could hear their window get shattered as they're saying, "They're surrounding me, they're surrounding me." They'd shatter the window and then they'd be gone. And we'd get to the area where they were and there'd just be an empty car in the middle of the road with a broken window and pepper spray all over it.
It's absolutely nuts.
It's crazy.
How often do you see vehicles driving without license plates? I see in my social media that happens sometimes. I'm
Yeah.
wondering the actual numbers because I do also see times when they do drive with license plates. I don't know if you have like your estimate
Mm.
from what you see on the ground versus what we see in the social media.
It's dependent on the season. Recently, without license plates is a little more rare, although they've been using covers on their plates. So either it's blacked out, so you need to be like right up next to it to see anything, or it's basically a piece of plastic on the plate, and there's you can't see the plate, like it's covered, or there's like basically a mirror put on the plate, and those have become increasingly common. I would be willing to say that like most of the plates have those types of covers where you can hardly see anything, if at all. And that's been kind of a new thing. They used to drive around with no plates and occasionally a plate cover, but especially recently, the plate covers have become increasingly used, which is a little weird.
Yeah, no, my opinion, I don't know how people can support that. It's just clearly authoritarian and quite crazy that people defend that.
hmm I mean, so much of what ICE does. I feel like plates sometimes feel like the least of our worries, even though it's illegal. A lot of times where people will argue that point is they'll say something CFR, something, something, something. It's a law basically saying government agencies can cover their plates. The problem is it's government agencies can cover U.S. government plates, but these aren't U.S. government plates. These are Illinois plates registered in the state of Illinois. A U.S. government plate is different in that it says U.S. government over the top. Yeah, so it is hard because it's just like, yeah, they're just very obviously breaking this law. And the supremacy clause does not allow for that, even though they will tell you it does.
Yeah, not much to say there, but it's just the reality we're living in. And I guess ending this call, first of all, thank you for your time. It's been great
Dude, thank you for
hearing.
doing this.
Yeah, of course. I think this stuff is super important. And as a 29-year-old, seeing an 18-year-old doing pretty brave stuff always has me thinking, like, what am I doing with my life? And I hope people that are watching this, have a similar takeaway because it really does need all of us to step in at this time to say, like, this isn't right. This is not the America we stand for. But yeah,
Mhm.
thank you for coming on and sharing these details. I think being able to hear, like, no, this is their current tactics. This is what they're doing with their license plates now. That kind of stuff really keeps us informed as the public. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing the story.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think at this point, it's hard to keep track, but we've been with them so many times, probably thousands of agents at this point that we've interacted with. Although sometimes it's the same agents, and with all the masks, you can't really tell who's who. But yeah, no, it's definitely like our lived experience, which is just it's wild because again, we're almost a year in. But if you would have asked me a year ago, you told me that I had done all this stuff, my mind would be blown.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy, it's crazy. And again, I'm a normal
Hey,
person. Like when this is over, I want to go. I think I'm going to do some sort of career in humanities. Like I'd love to see people get helped by like governmental positions and NGOs and groups.
that's great
Like
to hear.
I like music production, songwriting, and playing Minecraft while listening to podcasts. Like I'm not a terrorist, like they like to say. It's sad. It's a little sad, but I'm like I'm a normal person. I like Magic the Gathering. It's a fun card game.
I
Yeah,
was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh kid.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah,
brother's
yeah.
into Magic though. Hopefully one day we can just think about our normal hobbies. But yeah,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to share in closing?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much for doing this. Again, anybody that like can get the word out there is huge. And anybody that wants to get involved, contact an immigrant rights group near you. They will be able to hook you up in some way.
Yeah, I know one that's big in Illinois is ICER. I helped organize a fundraiser for them last year, and they do the
Yeah.
Lord's work as well.
Yeah. They're really good at getting people legal support. And then, yeah, there are local community groups that are really good with patrol networks. ICER can also hook you up with some patrol networks. Anyway,
But yeah, thank you, Ben. It was really nice talking to you again. Yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing.
it is crazy. Like I talked to you a year ago, and now this is where we're at.
I know.
But we'll
We'll
see
see
ya.
where we're at next year.
Heck yeah.
All
We'll
right,
see ya.
have a
Thank you
good
so
one.
much for doing this. We'll
You're
see ya.
welcome.
Bye.
Have a good one. Peace.